How's it going?
How is it going? See, look what I have. Oh my goodness. I am so excited, so proud. Um, how are you doing? I know this is the week after your book debuted. How are
Yeah.
you feeling right now?
A little bit calmer than last week, but also like still anxious. It's funny because literally last night I was telling Jeff, I was like, I thought that my book anxiety would have gone away like once the book was
Mhm.
out. But
Mhm.
now it's just like a different anxiety, like waiting on the first week sale numbers, knowing that it's probably nowhere near close to a bestseller list. And that wasn't the goal, but you always, want to know, like, well, how close did I come, if at all? And just seeing, like, and I wrote about in this morning's newsletter, like some jealousy around other authors and press that they've gotten and different things. It's just like, I feel like those feelings never go away. It just evolves, like at the different stage that you're at, like they will always meet you. But I am happy to say that I feel like, because I had to take my own medicine and some of the things that I wrote about in the book about overcoming jealousy and those sort of feelings, I'm like, all right, okay, girl, we need to practice what we preach. You can't be out here being a hypocrite. So that's
Right.
where we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I felt like your week, just from what I could see on this side of the computer screen, it seemed like it went well. It seemed like
Yeah.
in the moment. It seemed like you were in the moment of like, this is what I'm doing. My book baby is out. I
Yeah.
am I'm here. She's here, you know?
She's here. She
Yeah.
is.
So and I love this. I know you shared the cover a while ago, like earlier this year or late last year.
Yeah, it's like back in January or something.
Yeah.
Feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the cover. Um, I love everything about it. I love you got Phoebe Robinson on the cover with the blurb. That is lovely as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to interview you as I reached out to you a while ago, I think earlier this year, because I knew that the book was going to be bomb. And I wanted to add it to the self-care syllabus, which I have just been kind of, as books come across my
Mhm.
desk, my bookshelf, I want to highlight more books on wellness and preferably by Black women.
Love it. Yeah.
Because I know a few years ago, I was in like Barnes and Noble, I think, and I'm looking in the wellness section, and I'm like, I'm just scanning, like there's not a lot of here. So ever since then, I've just been like, let me hype up all these Black women authors who
Yeah.
have done
Thank
the
you.
serious work of writing a book. I am very early in the process.
I was gonna ask, like, how's it going on your end? Because
Yeah, I am very early in the process. So seeing this like finished piece is so inspiring to me
oh, thank
because
you.
it's one thing to get the book deal and to be like, okay, here it is. I had the
Mhm.
proposal, I know what I'm going to write. And then it's another thing to sit down and be like, oh, this is going to be a full thing. This is going to be a full book
Yeah.
when it all comes down to when it's all said and done. So book writing is going well.
Yes.
I don't know how you approached it, but for me, I am writing longhand. I bought myself
Mhm.
a bunch of like legal pads, and
Good.
I have been, and I feel like the words are flowing so much better with the
Yeah.
than it does when I'm sitting down with the computer. The computer feels like a lot of pressure, and I think the notepad just
Yes.
kind of like, this is a safe space. You're okay.
We know this. We can do
You know
this.
this. Yes. Yes. My
Yeah.
confidence is up here with that. With that.
Yeah. Good.
So
Good.
so it's going well. My editor, we kind of broke up the book in chunks. So
Hmm.
um instead of, one deadline at the end, like every what is it? Like every 2.5, 3 months or so, I send her like a 3 chapter chunk.
Oh,
Um,
that's good.
mhm.
Yeah.
She can kind of look and give edits and all of that.
Oh,
Uh
that's so sweet. You're already much better. Listen, I'm gonna take notes from you because I'm like, yes, tell me more because I'm
yeah,
gonna like implement that for the next go around. Because girl, it was very ghetto this
yeah,
process, this first
yeah.
time around.
See,
Yeah. So you're already off to a great start. Cheers to you.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we had our initial meeting, editors meeting afterwards, after the contract and everything. And I was like, so how does this work? Like, I don't
Mhm.
know, like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, just
Right.
write?
Yeah.
I see y'all next year? Like, what? what happens?
Yeah.
And they were like, how do you want to do it? Like, how do you want to approach it? And so that's what we came up with. Because I think originally, I think they might have been like, well, if you want to send us chapter by chapter, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, right. That's too much.
That's too much. That's too much.
Mhm.
I got to do it in chunks. So I think it's
Yeah.
just 3 different deadlines between now and next September.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I can handle that. That's fine.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So, all right, let me get into my questions
Yeah.
because we can sit and talk about the book writing process and all of that all day. But I want to talk to you about this book. Stop Waiting for Perfect is, I feel like the book I need to read right now in this season of my life. And I know
Yeah.
a lot of other women probably feel the same way. So could you just share a little bit about the origins of this book? Like what
Mhm.
made you decide to sit down and write out this proposal and say, okay, this is the book that I think needs to exist in the world?
It's so funny you asked that because this isn't the book that I set out to write. People who followed me for a long time will know that the original title was Trust Your Dopeness. I wrote that proposal back in 2017, but even before then, like my first book idea was in 2015, and I called it the Millennial Manual, and it's still like sitting collecting dust in my Google Docs. I had the chapter outline. That was, yeah, I think the last time I touched it was October 2017, and then pivoted to this Trust Your Dopeness title that was inspired in large part by my friend Melissa Kimball, founder of hashtag Black Creatives. And she, at the time, was working at Ebony, had invited me to be part of this Twitter chat about empowering Black girls. And I was feeling a lot of imposter syndrome leading up to that chat because the other panelist was the executive director, founder of a nonprofit for Black girls. So I was like, who
Mhm.
am I to
Yeah.
speak in the same conversation in this space? And she just well, via text, it was like literally right before the Twitter chat, and was just like, you know, you got this, your story is important, your words matter. And essentially what she was telling me without saying exactly was trust your dopeness. And so I took that and ran with it. That was the mantra, that became the thing, that was the blog, but like it had a whole like universe surrounding it. And so that was the proposal that I wrote in 2017. I bought Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass Author. She had a nonfiction book proposal on her website. I gifted it to myself as my 30th birthday present to myself, and wrote it, procrastinated for a long time. I didn't finish it until like spring of 2018 because of imposter syndrome. I felt a lot of that while writing it. So it was very meta. And but I think of the Toni Morrison quote where she says, if there's a story you want to read that hasn't been written yet, you need to write it. And I just really took that to heart. And so queried agents in 2018, signed with a couple, got rejected a lot. I want to definitely make sure I reiterate that part, especially as a writer, like rejection is par for the course. And I had one agent who told me, she's like, I love your voice. I love this idea. Come back when you have 20,000 followers. And I think at the time I maybe had 4 or 5,000 across all the different platforms. So I did not have that 20,000. I felt very discouraged, especially in nonfiction, because it is kind of a popularity game in terms of how many followers you have. If you're not a celebrity or politician, like publishers are in the business of selling books. And so they look at your following to see, okay, about how many of these people are actually going to show up and buy it. And so fast forward, long story short, signed with my current agent in 2020. Yeah, in the 2020, thinking of 2021. And we got the book deal in spring 2021, and everything was great until we found out that someone else has the copyright for Trust Your Dopeness and had to change the title to Stop Waiting for Perfect. And it was interesting. We had, it was me, my editor, my agent in the Zoom and like a Google Doc with 30 plus alternate titles. And it was actually inspired by a newsletter that I had written about writing the book, because everything is very, it all flows together. And it was just like, y'all, yeah, like we have to stop waiting for perfect. We have to like get the title, like something that fits, says the message. And I was like rambling like I am now. And they were like looking at each other like, I think you may be onto something. Because essentially, yeah, I wrote in there that you can edit bad, but you can't edit nothing. Like this tweet that I saw as I was writing the first draft, when I was trying to write a perfect first draft and those words don't go together. which I learned the hard way. And yeah, this book evolved into essentially a masterclass in unlearning perfectionism, its hold on us, especially as a Black woman, and what that means. And so, yeah, this was not the book proposal that I wrote. And it was the book that I needed to write because I needed to learn these lessons as well.
I love this so much, and hearing about how you've had to pivot titles. And I know sometimes we get like really in love with our titles. And I remember
Oh,
you
yeah.
told me that earlier this year about the original title and everything. So I've been trying to be like, I love my title, but I am not my title, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah,
remember like the message is what matters, and all of these
exactly.
things, and thinking about how things might shift from how I think it's gonna go to how it
Mm-hmm.
actually turn out. And I love the kind of connective thread of how you found your way to your new title. Like you
Yeah.
already had it, you know, it was already there with you. It was already
Mm-hmm.
um, connected to you and your thoughts, and you know, it sprang forth from you. So I think, you
Yeah.
know, your new title is beautiful, and I think it captures
Right.
what it needed to capture. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I feel like is meeting people at the moment. Like Trust Your Dopeness was very much a moment in time, was 2017. It was kind of like the girl boss era, you know, like the cutesy little Instagram captions and sayings. And excuse me, this is real life. This is real. This is what people need now. This is what I needed now. And so I'm grateful for that journey and that evolution that I was able to, because that's something that people right off the bat, it's like they love the title, they love the cover, and it's just like, okay, this is how it was always meant to be and meant to go. And I just had to like release that hold that I had on the previous iteration to allow it to become what people needed and what I needed today.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I kind of want to pivot now. I asked you about the origins of the book,
Mhm.
but I wanted to pivot a little bit to like the book release. And this isn't really like I wasn't planning on asking you about it, but I saw you tweeted it. So I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you about CBS Mornings and
Yeah.
taking your daughter and being able
Yes.
to show her, like, look at what can happen when you follow your dreams, you set a goal, you reach it. You wanted to have that example for her, which I just uh, I think I just hearted, I just favorited the tweet, and I just sat back like, "Oh," like, just it is just such a heartwarming picture and story
Oh,
and
thank you.
message. So I just wanted to ask you about that. How did that feel? How
Yeah.
long did you know that that had been in the works? Like, that, how long did you have before you went there?
Mhm.
Just tell me about it.
A while, like too long, to like my like anxiety and nerves kind of build up when my I forget even when because it was I'd known about it for a while. And my publicist, she had pitched, like, she knew the book's producer and everything like that. So they were talking. And I think also the journalist in me was just a little bit like skeptical because even though I knew, I didn't start telling people until we were already like in New York because I
Mhm.
knew that like things can change. Like it's media, there's news, breaking news can happen. I've been in this situation where, you know, I planned for something and then I think it was like the day Muhammad Ali died. And I had like a reporter out for this event that I was doing for Girl Scouts, and it just never aired because Muhammad Ali. And so I was like cautious, I was skeptical, I was very anxious. And as soon as we booked it, I asked my publicist, I was like, can I also have some media training, which I had done before? Like, again, I'm a journalist by trade. And when I did nonprofit PR, I trained CEOs, executives, like seniors, to other people. I did media training, but I had never undergone it myself. And I knew for this moment because I'd never been on national TV before. I've done radio, I've done podcasts, which allows you to be a little bit more invisible. There's also like longer segments, right? Like podcasts are 30, 45 minutes, an hour.
Yeah.
Even radio, maybe like 15, 20 minutes. This was like 4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And again, as you can tell, I'm someone when I'm excited and when I'm nervous, I talk a lot and I can talk very fast and it can get very rambling. I just didn't want to embarrass myself on national television in front of Gayle King. So I did a couple of sessions with the media coach, which was very helpful. She really helped me rein in the message and helped me feel more confident in delivering it because it's like, yes, I know the book, I wrote the book. And it's also different when you have like a ton of cameras pointed at you. The studio lights are on. When we walked in and I saw that the whole studio was like wrapped in the book cover colors, it was like surreal and just I was like, this is my life. Like, what do you mean? And it's funny because I was getting my makeup done and Gail came in because, you know, we're on a first name basis now. And she was like, "Is Negative Nancy in the room?" And I was like, "Yes." So that's what I named my inner critic in the book. And I was just honest with her. I was like, "Yeah, I'm really nervous. I'm excited. I'm anxious. I'm overwhelmed." Like it was all of the feelings. And I appreciated her coming in. There was a couple of times she just came back to the green room to check in, see how we were doing, ask me questions. So I felt very like comfortable with
Yeah.
her. But girl, when I sat down and looked Nate in the eyes, that is a very handsome man. And it threw me off. It threw me off my game. Like, and I watched and I caught it. I knew when I said it, like that first question, I like repeated myself by accident because I was just like so taken aback by his
Yeah.
whole demeanor. And I was like, girl, pull it together. Like you need to get it together. But no, go back to your original question. When we confirmed it, I was like, I definitely need to bring the family with me. And I'm not claiming that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm confident that it will happen again. And for the first time, though, I really wanted my family by my side. Jeff has supported me from the beginning, even back when we were friends before we were dating, has just always been a champion of me and my writing. And it was funny because, like, literally before we left, Violet was sitting in her little chair over there with one of the books and practicing her signature in the book. And just this past weekend, I had to give her her own notebook to write in because she's always trying to write in mine. And I just really, I wanted her to see what is possible, to see her mom, even when I was pregnant and we didn't know, you know, if we were having for a girl or whatever. But I was just like, I want this child to know me as a writer, like to get back to my truth, to find my way back, to stand in my purpose, like what I was put on this earth to do. And yeah, having them there meant everything. And it's funny, someone another Twitter follower had replied under that. She was like, Blue Ivy in training. And I joke because when I see Beyonce and Blue on the stage together, I'm like, what is the literary equivalent of that? So I'm not sure yet, but it's coming close. When we were at the New York book signing, she was sitting in my lap and wanted to sign some of the books as well. So I know it's important. Like she's watching, she won't remember this. You know, she turns 2 in October. She's still a baby. But I will know. We have the pictures, and I can share with her that story about our family trip to New York and being on TV and promoting my book. Like these are all things, and even going like her being here. Like these were 2 goals: a baby and book that I'd worked so hard for so many years toward, had so many setbacks with multiple IVF cycles, multiple rejections with literary agents and everything. So to see it culminate in both of them here, sometimes it's still like, I don't believe it just like, I'm like, this is real. This is my life. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so, so grateful.
Yeah. I'm like tearing up.
Oh, there are a lot of tears in New York. Yeah.
I am such a sap. When you were saying like, you know, she won't remember it, you know, you have the photos and everything. And I was like, she won't remember it, but it will be with her, you know,
Yeah.
it'll settle into her. And I think that, you know, as moms, we always want to do what's best for the kids, and we always want to do the things that I always say, like, I want my kids, and it's unrealistic, but I want my kids to have, you know, green lights as far as the eye can see
Yeah.
in 75-degree days all the time. Like, I want them to have a great life. And I think that part of that is setting that blueprint for so that they can see it, they can grow up with it. And so hearing you say, like, yeah, I had to buy her a notebook, and you know, she's trying to sign her name at the book, like hearing that, and also having a mother who feels fulfilled and is walking in
Yes.
purpose.
Yes.
You know, being able to see that, because a lot of us grow up with moms who are, you know, through no fault of their own, just making it, you know, just getting up every day, going to work because bills need to be paid.
Right.
It's expensive, gas is expensive. So to be able to see that, not just to be told that, you know, that you can sing and you can, you know, walk in your purpose, to be able to see that is lovely. So
yeah.
so you kind of I had a couple questions before this, but I wanted to ask, since we talked about it with your daughter and everything. I know you said she's about to be 2, and
Yeah.
about the timeline, you were having the baby and working on the book and everything simultaneously.
Yep.
Also a pandemic in there. Uh,
Yep.
there the past 3 years for you has been a lot of things happening. So I'm just curious because I come at this from kind of like, a self-care angle,
Yeah.
just as the writer, as the mama to be, as all of
Mhm.
these things, somebody trying to, just navigate a global pandemic. How were you tending to yourself during that time? And it's okay to be completely honest. But how were you navigating some of those ups and downs of, I mean, literally, I'm thinking about all of those things stacked on top of each other. And so I'm just curious if you have
Yeah.
been able to kind of process that in any way, and how did you manage to make it to 2023?
Listen, it was it was a lot and a lot of therapy. Shout out to therapy.
Mhm.
But no, I write in the acknowledgments. I'm like, writing a book is hard. Writing a book during a global pandemic is even harder. Writing a book during a global pandemic and raising a new, like, it was just
Yeah.
the hardest thing that I have done. And I talk about it on the CBS segment, and Gail laughed, but I was like, no, literally, like the book was harder than the baby because at least there
Mhm.
was help for that, especially once she was old enough and went to daycare. I was like, okay, there's help for that. Like other people can step in and wrap their arms around us and support us. I had to sit down at the end of the day and put words on a paper and write this book, and doing the two at the same time was just very challenging because and it's interesting too, I feel like I had to go through that in order to, there was like literally the night before the line edits, like the third draft, the final draft was due, that I emailed my editor and I was like, I'm about to change 40% of this book, but trust me on it, is gonna be okay. Because what happened was I was reading, I had, like I said before, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of imposter syndrome about writing a book, especially a self-help book, because who am I to help other people if I'm still struggling with the very things I'm trying to help them through?
That is yes, I understand. I understand.
Yep. So, and I think in that process was trying to emulate other self-help authors that I've seen and their success, and lost my voice and my way in the process, and
Yeah.
had this awakening. Like literally, Yvette Dion had tweeted about her book Weightless and how it evolved and grew with her. And a lot of it changed from when she started writing it 5 years ago. And that kind of gave me permission to evolve as well. Like things that I had in the proposal and in the outline no longer fit me. I had to get real. I had to get honest. I had to get vulnerable, which is like kryptonite to an Enneagram 3. Like I'm an achiever, I'm a perfectionist, there's no flaws. Like I must present as, and this was just like the book demanded that I get real and honest and vulnerable about the challenges that I had in being, and I don't even say recovering perfectionist because I'm still like, I haven't even reached the recovery stage yet. Like I'm still working to get there, but parenting, and like I open it up with losing my Peloton streak after 600 something days, like a month after our daughter was born. Like all of these things had to happen, and it made it to the book, and is the book that it is today because I had to like shed that perfectionism. I had to get vulnerable. I had to ask for help. But yeah, it was really, really challenging. February 2021 is when we got the positive pregnancy test after 4 5 rounds of IVF. And then May is when we got the book deal, and it was like, cool,
Yeah.
now what? It's like when it
Yeah.
rains, it pours these blessings, and I'm so grateful. And my mom always tells me, she's like, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. I was like, but he pushed it that time though. Like you really, we kind of, because like the emotional side of pregnancy, because the PTSD of infertility, I feel like I didn't really allow myself to enjoy it. I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. I had a meltdown in a bye bye baby when we looked at strollers, because I was like, well, if I push the stroller, then it becomes real, and if it's real, if something happens, this is going to be devastating. I didn't know that perinatal depression was a thing. And thankfully, one of my friends, one who owns what's it called, Broken Brown Egg, told me about it, and we had some really good conversations. I found support groups. I upped the therapy sessions to get through that. But then, of course, postpartum depression kicked my ass. It was a really dark period. We were in Ohio, which no shade to. But it was just like I was out of my, like, I'm from Maryland. We had spent the last almost 10 years in Chicago. Like Ohio was just like, I was out of my comfort zone. I was like not with my people. So that contributed to it. And at the same time, trying to write this book, but trying to write like the perfect first draft and putting so much pressure on myself. It was, there's a lot I would do differently the next time around, like you said, about breaking it up into the chunks and just, yeah, dedicating time to it. Cause yeah, I was like, when I set out to write a book, I'm thinking, oh, I'll be in the coffee shop and with my latte and everything. And that happened like 2 or 3 times when I was able to pump enough and like hand the baby over to my mother-in-law and escape. Well, Jeff was at work, but for the most part, it was like in the notes at 2 a.m. while breastfeeding. It was in these like stolen moments throughout the day, during lunch or after she went to bed. And it was hard. It was very demanding. And I mean, I was narrating the audiobook and I was like, there's still things that I would want to change about it that I can't now. It was too late. So that perfectionist, tendencies die. They don't die or they die hard. They take a while to go away. But it was brutal. It was very, very demanding. But I feel like I've become a better person because of it.
Yeah, I think sometimes we, as we're going through things, in the moment, it's hard to see like, how is this helping me? How is this?
Right.
How is this growing me? I don't want to grow. I was
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
where I was. I don't want to grow. Like growth is over.
Mhm.
And then once you kind of get some distance or you're able to get just a little bit of perspective, a different perspective, I think that it is helpful. And I feel you on the perfectionism thing because I can already see like, we need to do version 2 for the audiobook. Like you on that, yes. And I do call myself a recovering perfectionist. And now I'm like, I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know. It may not be accurate. Yeah. So that is a wonderful answer to that question because it's real and it's honest. And I think that the growth definitely shows in the book.
Oh, thank you.
It definitely shows in the book. My husband, I just asked him to bring me the book and he sent me the like copy that I'm gonna give away and not the copy that I had like underlined. And
Oh.
I was like, where's that quote I wanted to read to you? But I don't want to take forever to try to find it. But I will say that this book is, I feel like, completely necessary for these times that we're living in, because I think a lot of people are reevaluating so much in their life right now. We got through, the first waves of the pandemic and everybody's like, okay, well, this is our time to slow down. And, we didn't have so much to do that first couple of months in the pandemic. And then it kind of lingered on. And then we were able to say, I don't know if I'm, living in my purpose. I don't know if I'm doing that. I don't think I like this relationship. Like a lot of changes are happening for a lot of people. One of my good friends, Stephanie, she's been saying to me for the past, I think 2 years, like transition, like that is our transition. Like things are changing quickly in some cases, but slowly in others. And so I think that this book is really like that friend that will hold your hand and be like, woo, woo, woo. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. You do not have to be perfect. We are all battling in our own ways, what we think, perfection looks like. We all have some element of imposter syndrome. So I definitely think that this is a book for now, for women who, or people who, are trying to think about what their next steps might be, and then not letting fear get in the way of that. So I wanted to thank you and just point that out.
Thank you. No, that's music to my ears. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is more of a personal question about the writing process itself. I know we've touched on it a couple different times during the interview. But just thinking about like that writing process, and thinking about how you were, like as you said, kind of stealing moments while you're breastfeeding.
Mhm.
I know the Notes app very well. And it's hard. And I have to say, my kids are 16 and 15, and I'm still like I was trying to write all summer. And
Mhm.
I need y'all to go to school. Like
Get
they
up out of here. You
today's
got to go.
yeah, today's the first day of school, and I'm like, I can write, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
I've been writing, and that's part of the reason why I've been writing on the legal pads too, is because it's like, okay, they still need a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Can you take me to Target? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm like, yeah, y'all need to go to school. Um, that was a whole tangent about my
No, but yes, it's
yeah.
just like I've saw somewhere that like teenagers are just, like toddlers and bigger.
They're just
So like,
they're just tall toddlers. My
yeah.
son is 15, he's 6 feet tall. And it's like, it's like toddlers are like, can I have some juice? Can I have some water? And then now they're like, can you take me to Target? I need to go to Target.
Hmm.
Why aren't we at Target?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so my question is about, your writing process, and specifically on the ways that you have found that help to kind of soothe you, to kind of help you when maybe your anxiety is heightened, um, maybe things are just feeling a little bit overwhelming from you. Is there anything that you tend to turn to help you calm down, that you would love to share?
Yeah. And I wish I had like this beautiful, picturesque writing process to share, but the truth is it's also imperfect. I'm a creative, it's chaotic at times. There aren't always the rituals, because especially as she was a newborn, it was just kind of like getting where you fit in the Notes app. It's funny when you mentioned earlier about like the computer being intimidating and sitting down to it, because I was like trying to be a professional author at first, and I downloaded Scrivener, like the writing platform everyone raves about, and I tried really hard to make fetch happen and like watch the tutorials, and but I was just like, no, this is overwhelming to me and it's not how my brain works. I went back to the Google Docs. I had index cards with the chapter descriptions, and they were on the wall at some point. I had my spiral notebook and I was writing large parts of the book by hand as well. I think I saw that Jasmine Guillory had done that, and she's like my author idol. So I was like, okay, yes, I too would, but it's just something also that like just because that blinking cursor right on the blank doc it can be just
Yeah.
very intimidating, can psych you out. And so I had to like get back to basics, write it down, and the notebook app, get out of my element sometimes when I did get to go to the coffee shops and have the lo-fi background on, music rather. And I try to recreate that sometimes at home, if I had the house to myself, and light a candle and find, Amber Burns has a really good playlist, YouTube playlist of different like coffee shop sounds. So I would go and sit on my little corner of the sofa too and like play that on the speakers with the candle and set the vibes to get into the
Mhm.
yeah, I don't see like she has a whole play, and it's like fall coffee shop sounds, rainy day coffee shop sounds, and whatever your like mood and vibe is. And so that kind of helped as well. But I think ultimately it was just about like, okay, you need to put words on a paper. The perfectionist in me, but also being a journalist and a writer, having been an editor, different parts of my career as well, I was trying to edit while I was writing, which I don't recommend. You get like, no. And I came to the realization too, is like, I'm trying to do my job and my editor's job and the copy editor's job at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid for that. So let me just focus on my role here as the writer and show up and do my part and trust that they will do theirs. And love my editor. She was great. A lot of the revisions that I got back, it was funny at some parts because I was like, did I write that or did she write that? Like she had mastered my voice, like really got in tune with what I was trying to say and did elevate it to that next level. And so it was that trust part that like, okay, I don't have to show up and be everything and do everybody's job. my role here is the writer. My job is put words on the paper. And yeah, that tweet that I saw, I think it was Eve Ewing who had shared it on Instagram or something, and I went back and found it. But the like, you can't edit, you can edit bad, you can't edit nothing. So like, it doesn't need to be perfect. Anne Lamont also in, I forget the name of the book, but I know there was that part she writes about the shitty first draft. And that was very much like, if I showed y'all the first draft of this book compared to the published version, you'd be like, girl, what were you thinking? And it was, yeah, just a work in progress of unlearning that perfectionism, being, allowing myself to be vulnerable, trusting that other people will show up to do their part, and like trusting myself then to do mine as well.
I needed that word. I didn't know I needed that because as you were talking, I was like, "Oh, am I editing? I think I'm editing too." Okay, I need to let that go. Okay,
Let it go.
yeah, I did that because I think and that's what you talk about in the book, especially with the like imposter syndrome um sections. It's like we are trying to fit this image that we have in our head of what, as you said, what a professional writer, like what type of first draft do you think that they had,
Right.
we don't know all of the drafts that they had. We've only seen that final version. But trying to fit into this idea of what we think it should look like, and versus being able to sit and trust our own voice and trust that our editors saw something in us, or else we would not be in this position to write the book.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you sharing that. And I think even for people who aren't writers, I think that they can hit that message will hit them as well, because it's important. I think it's applicable across industries. Say like, I'm here for a reason, and that reason is I'm good. So
Exactly. More than good. And especially as Black women, and I write about it in the book, like Papa Pope said in Scandal, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much as they do, and they being, our white counterparts. And I think especially in publishing as a Black woman, there aren't a lot of us. So
right.
I felt this additional pressure that admittedly I put it on myself, but also like society, because I wanted like Shonda going, because she's Shonda Rhimes, she's amazing. But she talks about being first only and different. And so there is a lot of pressure. And not that I'm the first publisher or first Black woman author that my publisher has worked with. And I also know that I represent Black women, and I want to make sure that other women are getting a chance to do this and write the books. And so I put that pressure on me to show up in a certain way, to be polished, to be perfect, because I want to make sure that everyone who's coming behind me gets the same opportunities as well. Like, I'm a reflection on them. And that's just like, that's bigger than me. That's not my problem. That's not my burden to bear. That's something that society has put on Black women that is not for us to own. And the reality is still that like we are a minority in publishing and a lot of different industries. So I definitely felt that as I was writing, as well as like, I have to do a good job so they don't rescind this book deal. And I have to make sure that I do a good job because I want other Black women to get the opportunity to tell their stories as well.
Yeah. That's powerful. That's powerful. Um, I love this conversation. I do not oh, and I didn't mention again, because I had my husband come up here and grab the dog, and I was like, bring me the book, bring me the stuff. But the I see you have your water
Yeah.
everything. That package was amazing. The candle smells so good. It does smell like success.
Right.
It does smell like success, because I sniffed it first before I saw it, and I was like, this is like rich, like Oprah. Who is this?
You're right.
What is this scent? And I saw I said success. I was like, oh, this is A1. This is perfect. So I will definitely include my unboxing and everything when I post about this book, because I think that I want everybody to read it. Like, first of all, I want everybody to read it, get their copy. I will be doing a giveaway, but yeah, I just think everybody should read this. Everybody who's trying to do something different, everybody who's trying to do something that scares them a little bit, whether they're in transition or whether they've already made a transition and they're second guessing themselves or dealing with a little bit of self-doubt. I think that this book, I've been looking forward to it since you started, publicizing about it. So I think it's wonderful. Is there, I know my agent had asked me this, shortly after we connected. I know you're working on, another book proposal and everything. And I know that right now you're like, oh, stop waiting for perfect, is occupying all of my thoughts and all of my minds. Um, but I'm just thinking about the future for you a little bit. Are you, um, how do I want to put this? Thinking about the future, thinking about, what else is there for you? Like, are you thinking about, I just want to write books. I want to be happy with my baby and my husband, write these books and, conquer the world. Is there anything that you are thinking about for the future that Stop Waiting for Perfect is setting you up for?
Yeah, well, it's very timely, and I'm not sure when this is running, but next Friday will be my last day full time at Fortune. I'm going back to my freelance roots. It's just been this like tension within me, and even before I started, it was like okay, because I was doing full time freelancing for a while, but girl, daycare mortgage is
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
and needed that stability, the 401k and like all those things. And also realized that I was limiting myself. I was not taking my
Mm.
own advice in the book. I was playing it small. I was trying to fit in this box. And what I realized now is like God has so much bigger plan for me that I really need to step and walk fully in that purpose. It was just getting to a point where it was a lot to do like a full-time job, full-time author, full-time mom, wife, like all of these things. And it's like something's got to give. And, like Beyonce says, I'm a bet on myself. And so it's a little scary, right? I'm also in this transition that I'm like coaching people through in the book now, stepping out into my own. And I know that it's time. I know that I have everything that I need to succeed. And I'm really excited for the future and writing more books, doing more writing for different outlets, cover stories, even a column, perhaps, more speaking engagements, just really, truly, fully walking in my purpose. It feels equal parts exhilarating and terrifying, but I know that it's gonna be good, and I have to do it. Like I cannot talk about it, write about it, speak about it, and not live it, both for me and everyone reading it, and also for Violet who's watching. And like you said earlier, that creative blueprint, because that's not what I had growing up. Our moms, like you said, did what they needed to do to get things done, and we were grateful for that. And I also want to show Violet another way of being, that you can make a living out of your art and your creativity, and really walk in your truth and your purpose, and know that everything is going to work out for you in the end.